Hello. It is Lynx here, and today I am reading a fic named Bakugo Did Not Get a Cat, and he absolutely did not name it, by Sex Luther on AO3. It is not rated. The creator chose not to use archive warnings. Characters are Bakugo, Katsuki, and a cat. Additional tags. Kirishima is here too. It's in English, and there's a little under 5,000 words, and it's a short one-shot. Summary. A stray cat commits crimes and adopts a hero. Chapter 1. Bakugo's alarm sounded at 0600 on the dot. His hand shot out from under the covers and smashed it into electronic silence before his eyes even cracked open. A muscle in his jaw ticked. Sunlight, already obnoxiously bright, streamed through his meticulously clean window, painting a warm rectangle on his floor. It was his day off. Bakugo hated days off. The unstructured time stretched ahead of him like hostile territory, wide, empty, and begging to be conquered. With one violent motion, he tore the covers away and stood. The day would not win. He would assault it with a rigid, unyielding routine. He marched into the bathroom and cranked the shower to its coldest settings, stepping under the icy spray like it was penance for the unforgivable sin of rest. His muscles, still sore from yesterday's mission, burned in protest, a visceral reminder of the work he should have been doing instead. After a shower lasting exactly 180 seconds, he subjected his reflection to a merciless inspection, noting a fresh constellation of bruises across his torso. Next, with enough force to give his dentist a premonition, he attacked his teeth with his toothbrush. One rough toweling of his spiky hair later, he was done. He stormed into his sanctuary, his true proving ground, the kitchen. The coffee machine was bullied into submission. Eggs, salmon, miso paste, and rice were slammed onto the counter like evidence at a perp walk. The menu was non-negotiable. Miso glazed salmon, 3 perfect sunny-side-up eggs, yolks intact, or else, and a mountain of rice so flawless it would force a grim nod of approval from his mother. It was a breakfast of champions, which he was, and it would be a masterpiece of flavor and structural integrity. With excessive force, Bakugo yanked the kitchen window open to let some fresh air in. He moved with focused, aggressive grace, chopping, searing, and plating his meal like he was disarming a bomb. The result was immaculate. He turned to snag a water bottle from the fridge. When he pivoted back, a full-blown tactical incursion was underway. Perched on his countertop was a creature. It was small, mangy, and the color of a rusty traffic cone. One wide, milky blue eye was fixed unblinkingly on a salmon. The other of its face was a mess of scarred fur, the eyelid permanently shut. It leaned forward, nose twitching, inches away from his masterpiece. Bakugo's brain stalled. His synapses, capable of calculating complex battle trajectories in milliseconds, short-circuited under the sheer brazen insolence of the scene. "The hell?" he breathed. The cat's single eye flicked from the fish to him. Then, with an appalling lack of haste, the creature clamped its jaws around the entire salmon fillet and executed a flawless, one-eyed leap out the window. For a full second there was only silence, the empty plate and the phantom scent of miso glaze. "Get back here, you thief!" In a red mist of pure vengeance, Bakugo dove headfirst out the kitchen window. What followed was the most undignified pursuit of his life. The cat was a ginger spectral flowing through dark spaces that defied physics. A crack in a neighbor's fence, the narrow cavity beneath a parked car, the impossible overhang of a roof eave. Bakugo, meanwhile, was a loud, explosive, and painfully human-shaped projectile, ricocheting off trash cans and getting snagged on clotheslines. Panting, he finally skidded to a halt, glaring at the perfectly circular opening of a sewer pipe where his quarry had vanished. He'd lost, to an animal with half its depth perception. A low, seething stream of profanity poured out for him, a creative and an anatomically improbable ode to the thieving bastard and its entire lineage. Bakugo trudged back to his apartment, defeat sour on his tongue and planned for a vengeful second breakfast already coalescing. He slammed the front door hard enough to rattle the frame and stormed back to the kitchen, only to be greeted by an act of even greater treason. His water bottle lay on its side, a perfect spreading pool of condensation on the polished floor, and in the center of the puddle, lapping daintily with its pink tongue, was the fish felon, notably without any fish. It froze mid-lap. Its single eye swiveled up to meet Bakugo's. The silence that filled the kitchen was deeper and more terrifying than any explosion he could conjure. It was the pressurized quiet before detonation that could level a city block. A single vein throbbed at his temple. Bakugo released a guttural war cry and lunged. Moving with the chaotic grace of a pinball, the cat bounced off the walls, leaving a trail of culinary casualties. A bag of rice, a spice rack, a carton of eggs, meeting a tragic Yoki end. As Bakugo cornered it near the dining area, a warm spark flickered in his palm, a tiny, involuntary blast meant to hurt the creature. Instead, Bakugo vaporized one leg of his dining table, sending it crashing to the floor. The cat shot out of the kitchen like a fuzzy bullet. Bakugo gave chase, a one-man wrecking crew, following the trail of upturned rugs and knocked over decor until the vermin dove into the final refuge, under his bed. Bakugo dropped to the floor and shoved himself into the opening, arm straining. "Come here, you little..." His fingers brushed fur, then nothing. The cat had simply flowed around him, escaping his grasp like smoke. In his furious adjustment, Bakugo succeeded only in wedging his shoulders and chest firmly under the bed frame. He was stuck. From atop the comforter, the salmon swindler watched, its single eye wide with academic interest as Bakugo's legs kicked in furious, useless counterpoint to his snarling. The indignity was absolute. The pressure in his skull reached critical mass. With a final incoherent roar, he let it out. Not a focus blast, but a concussive shockwave of pure frustration from his pinned palms. Kaboom! The bed frame splintered. The mattress erupted in a blizzard of foam and fabric. The box spring folded like a sad accordion. When the dust settled, Bakugo lay flat on the floor in a heap of wreckage, finally free, covered in a fine layer of stuffing. The cat, utterly unimpressed, had simply hopped to the top of his dresser in the blast's aftermath. It sat there now, serene, giving its now dusty paw a single fastidious lick. "Well," its posture seemed to say, "what's your brilliant next move?" "Wipe that look off your face, you sentient lint ball!" Bakugo bellowed, emerging from the wreckage like a wrathful, stuffing-covered spectre. The cat continued to stare. Bakugo shot forward like a rocket. "I'm gonna turn you into a throw pillow!" The cat flowed sideways like water and bolted for the bedroom door. Bakugo's trajectory, however, was absolute. He couldn't stop. He slammed his palm against the wall above the dresser, intending to use the blast to pivot. Kaboom! Dry roll splintered 2x4s, and a significant chunk of electrical wiring exploded outward, creating a jagged, sparking new doorway into the hallway. The light fixture in the hall shorted out with a dramatic pop, plunging the chase into strobe-like flashes from the dying sparks. Bakugo tumbled through the cloud of debris, landing on his knees directly in front of the escape route. "Ha!" he thundered, triumphant at the interception. The cat didn't break stride. It used his crouched back as a springboard, leaping off his shoulder blades with a push that drove his face briefly into the carpet and shot toward the living room. Bakugo scrambled after it on all fours, a mad humanoid tank. His elbow caught the leg of a heavy console table, sending a crystal vase and a set of commemorative All Might figurines, a gift from his mother he'd never admit to displaying, flying to their doom. He surged to his feet, grabbed the ornate trim of the archway to fling himself into the living room, and peeled off a 4-foot section of crown molding like a banana skin. The cat, now treating the entire apartment as its own personal parkour course, bounced off the sofa onto a bookshelf and along the back of the massive flat-screen television, its claws leaving a perfect diagonal scratch across the black screen. Bakugo, attempting a desperate interception, launched himself in a flying tackle across the solid acrylic coffee table. The table exploded into 1,000 shards under his weight, sounding like a chandelier hitting concrete. "Stop moving, you one-eyed dumpster sprite!" Blinded by rage and flying plastic, his next wild grab missed the perpetrator and connected solidly with the base of a towering, abstract floor lamp. It toppled like a felled tree, its weighted base smashing a hole in the hardwood floor before the glass shade detonated against the upend sofa, embedding glittering shards in the fabric. The cat, now seemingly treating this as the best day of its life, zipped into the kitchen. Bakugo slid around the corner in his socks, lost all traction on a stray cookbook, and careened hip first into the overhang of the breakfast bar. The impact dislodged a mounted pot rack from the ceiling. Cast iron skillets and copper pots crashed down around him in a deafening metallic symphony. The fruit bowl atop the bar performed a graceful, parabolic swan dive, smashing against the fridge door and painting it in a Jackson Pollock of pulverized berries and citrus. Panting, covered in drywall dust, berry juice, and righteous fury, Bakugo finally cornered the creature. It was backed against the still-open kitchen window, the only exit left, standing amid the rubble of its own making. Its sides were heaving, but its single eye was bright, almost exhilarated. Victory was a pane of glass away. He took a slow, deliberate step forward. The cat's haunches tensed. Bakugo flinched, as if to lunge again. It worked. The orange menace shot towards the windowsill. In that same instant, Bakugo threw his weight forward and slammed the window frame down with a final definitive crack that rattled the last of the intact dishes in the cupboard. The lock clicked. He watched through the glass as the dumpster goblin vanished into his neighbor's hydrangea bushes, a final flick of the tail that only farewell. A slow, triumphant smirk tugged at his lips, until he turned around. His gaze swept over the war zone that was, minutes ago, his pristine apartment. The jagged new doorway in the hall, the glittering carnage of the coffee table, the sofa upholstery, now a pincushion, the fruity abstract art that now decorated him in his kitchen, the smoldering crater where a floor lamp used to be. The smirk died. A profound, soul-deep exhaustion settled over him. He pinched the bridge of his nose as if trying to push the entire scene out of his brain. He released a groan that carried the weight of a broken lease agreement and several thousand yen in damages. Later that evening, after a tense and expensive trip to the furniture store, Bakugo stood out back where the carcass of his former bed and living room set were being purged from the earth. The flames roared, consuming the evidence of his defeat. The gate behind him creaked. "Hey, Bakugo, I saw the truck out front. Redecorating?" Kirishima strolled into the flickering light, his sharp-toothed grin faltering as he took in the scene. A towering pyre of splintered wood, shredded fabric, and one distinctly claw-marked sofa cushion, and Bakugo, hands shoved deep in his pockets, face carved into a scowl that could curdle milk, staring into the inferno like it held the answers to life's great mysteries. Kirishima said, coming to stand beside him. "Big fire." Bakugo's only response was a grunt that seemed to add more fuel to the blaze. Kirishima was quiet for a minute, then asked, "You want some help assembling that stuff I saw in the truck?" Bakugo grumbled something that sounded like, "Sure," and turned away from the fire with the air of a general retreating from a lost battlefield. Once inside, Kirishima blinked. "Oh," he said, his voice carefully neutral. He scanned the room, a hole in the wall, the destroyed floorboards, and the abstract fruit art. He nodded slowly. "Right, so this is some sort of open-concept renovation?" "You're not funny," Bakugo muttered, shoving a box of screws toward him with his foot. Okay, Kirishima said, holding up his hands in surrender, though his grin was undimmed. "What happened then?" Bakugo went very still. For a second, his gaze grew distant, fixed on some middle distance where tiny orange demons danced amid explosions and flying salmon. The vein in his temple, which had finally stopped throbbing, gave a warning twitch. His voice, when it came, was low and haunted. "A wild beast," he said finally. The words dragged from him like shrapnel. "A feral, one-eyed thing. Broke in, stole my breakfast, and then destroyed my house." He glared at a specific set of claw marks on the doorframe, as if they were a personal insult. The two of them spent the next few hours in a grunting, focused silence, assembling furniture, patching walls, and purging the last of the fruity evidence. Finally finished, Bakugo collapsed onto his new couch, threw his feet up and on the coffee table, and let his head fall back with a heavy, world-weary sigh. He'd allow himself a few minutes of rest. It lasted approximately 8 seconds. "Hey man," Kirishima called from the kitchen, casually curious. "When'd you get a cat?" Bakugo's eyes shot open. His head swiveled so fast he saw stars. There, in the doorway, stood Kirishima, cradling the felonious feline against his chest like a baby. The creature was purring loud enough to power a small appliance as Kirishima gently scratched below its chin. Bakugo launched himself off the couch. "How the hell did that thing get back in here?" "Huh?" Kirishima looked down at the cat, then at Bakugo, utterly confused. "It was pawing at the window looking all sad, so I opened it. Then it just..." He shrugged, adjusting his grip as the cat bonelessly melted into his arms. "Walked right in like it owned the place. Super friendly little dude. I figured he was yours." "I didn't get a damn cat!" Bakugo shouted, sparks snapping in his palms. Kirishima blinked. Slowly, reverently, understanding dawned. His gaze shifted from Bakugo's apologetic fury to the blissed-out, purring menace in his arms. "Oh," he breathed, lowering his voice like he was in the presence of something sacred. He lifted the cat slightly, stunning it with awe. "Wait, is this the wild beast?" Then Kirishima laughed, bright and disbelieving. "No way!" he said, grinning down at the cat as it leaned into his hand. "This little guy's super sweet. Look at him, he's practically vibrating." The cat chose that moment to press its head under Kirishima's chin, purring even louder. Bakugo saw red. "Put the bastard back outside," he snarled, stalking forward, sparks now crackling along his arms. "Right now before I blast both of you to hell!" Kirishima let out a nervous laugh, instinctively tightening his hold on the cat. "Whoa, okay, yeah, man, sure, whatever you say." Kirishima had tried to take the cat home with him. It lasted less than 24 hours. Somehow, illegally, Bakugo was certain the cat was back at his window by morning. After that, the campaign escalated. Bodies started appearing at his front door. A mangled bird, a limp rodent, once something unidentifiable and vaguely reptilian. Kirishima tried to explain it. He babbled about instincts, about gifts, about cats bringing their human's presence as a sign of affection. Bakugo had stopped listening at gifts. These weren't gifts. The cat wasn't bonding with him. It was threatening him, establishing dominance, marking territory, demonstrating capability. It wanted him to know it could kill, easily, casually, and one day soon, personally. Every time Bakugo left his apartment, he stayed on high alert, waiting for the moment the cat would finally strike. But the sightings grew infrequent. Days passed, then weeks. The absence itself became suspicious. He saw it again after a particularly grueling mission, his body a map of fresh aches and his temper a lit fuse. The intruder had claimed his porch. Curled into a tight, dusty ball against the wall, tail tucked, its one good eye closed, it looked smaller than he remembered. Bakugo stopped short. "The hell do you think you're doing here?" he snapped. The cat stirred, lifting its head with a tired slowness. It stretched, a deliberate, insolent arch of its spine. That's when Bakugo saw it. The sharp jut of a hip bone, the faint tracing of ribs beneath matted fur, the illusion of menace thinned by hunger. His hand lingered on the doorknob. He stared at the cat from the corner of his eye, jaw tight, irritation warring with something far more inconvenient. With a sharp huff, he went inside. The door shut. Moments later, it opened again. Bakugo stepped back out, 2 bowls in hand. One water, the other hastily torn pieces of chicken from his own kitchen. He set them down. The cat watched him, then the bowls. It crept forward, sniffed, and then began to eat with a quiet, desperate focus. Bakugo stood guard, arms crossed, his scowl a permanent fixture. A weird, traitorous twitch tried to happen at the corner of his mouth. He forced it to stop. "Don't get used to it, freeloader," he muttered. Then he turned and went back inside. He kept feeding the cat every damn night. Don't purr at me, Bakugo chided one evening, setting the bowls down. It's creepy. The purring only intensified. He glared, retreated, and slammed the door, but the sound followed him, a smug, fuzzy engine of triumph. One night, as he crouched to deliver rations, a flash of angry red caught his eye. Blood. The cat's front leg was a mess of raw skin and matted fur. It held the paw aloft, a tiny, flawed statue of pain. Tch! Get your ass kicked or something? He asked. Not that he cared. He definitely didn't care. He crouched closer. He visually inspected the wound, his scowl deepening as if it were a personal insult to his orderly world. With a sharp, exasperated huff, he went inside and returned a minute later with a first aid kit. The cat watched him with its singular blue eye, but didn't flinch as he briskly cleaned the gash. It just sat there, that infuriating purr now a low, trusting rumble. Bakugo worked with brutal efficiency, wrapping the leg in a neat, professional bandage. He shoved the supplies back into the kit and stood, crossing his arms. Don't get the wrong idea, he stated, his voice flat. I just don't want you bleeding all over my porch. The cat, of course, purred in response. Bakugo went back inside and didn't come out again for the rest of the night. The following day, a violent storm rolled in. Thunder shook the building's foundations. Rain fell in relentless wind-whipped streets. When Bakugo returned from his mission that day, soaked and bone-tired, the porch was empty. He noticed, but he wasn't worried. Definitely not worried. And definitely didn't glance around for any sign of the one-eyed cursed sweet potato. Inside, he moved through his routine on autopilot. Shower, towel off, kitchen. He just wrenched the fridge open when he heard it. Scritch, scritch. A faint, frantic scraping, almost lost beneath a thunderclap. Bakugo went still, listening carefully. Another desperate drag of claws against glass. He turned slowly. Pasted against the kitchen window was a drenched, pathetic shadow. The cat was soaked to the skin, fur plastered into sad spikes, its single eye wide with primal terror. It pawed at the pain again, its mouth a soundless O of panic. Bakugo stared. This crossed a line. His line. Food on the porch was one thing. Inside was another. Thunder cracked. The cat jerked violently. Fine, he'd allow it. This once. He shoved the window up but barred the entrance with his hand. Don't steal my food, he warned, and don't you dare bring any dead shit in here. The cat blinked, rain streaking its fur. Well, in or out? The cat darted inside. Bakugo slammed the window shut, his expression already a masterpiece of profound regret. This is temporary, he announced no one in particular. The cat, now officially an indoor problem, gave a full-body shudder. A shockwave of muddy water and wet fur sprayed across his floor, his lower cabinets, and his pant leg. Bakugo gawked at the spatter of filthy droplets. Are you kidding me? Undeterred, the cat looked up at him and purred, a raspy, waterlogged sound of pure contentment. As it did, a new assault hit Bakugo's senses. A potent, soggy dumpster aroma wafted from its fur. You smell like shit, he gagged. A swift, aggressive search on his phone for cat shampoo, no scent strong. Later, he was snatching his coat. Stay right there, and don't you dare get on my furniture, he commanded, jabbing a finger at the damn creature before storming out. He returned some time later, bag in hand, to a scene of perfect betrayal. He stared at the purring loaf crawled shamelessly upon his pristine couch cushion. The air grew thick, crackling with promise of imminent combustion. I told you not to get on my furniture! Bakugo roared, his voice shaking the light fixture. The cat simply lifted its head and offered a soft, sweet meow. Seething over the violation of his brand-new couch, he nonetheless moved with a rigid, controlled calm. He tugged on a pair of yellow rubber gloves, then scooped the cat out with surprising, almost clinical care. It hung limp in his grasp, offering no resistance as he carried it to the bathroom. Bakugo placed it into the tub, started the lukewarm water, and grabbed the bottle of flea shampoo he'd bought, a purchase made under the entirely reasonable assumption that the mangy creature was a walking ecosystem. The cat sat there, soaked and bedraggled, tolerating the indignity with an unsettling amount of compliance. As he worked the gentle shampoo into a lather, his scowl didn't soften as much as it sharpened, focusing with laser intensity. Up close, the truth was undeniable. The cat's skin was a disaster, not merely dirty, but ravaged. Fleas leapt from the disturbed fur, a topography of old bites layered beneath new ones, bald patches where the hair had given up, scars that had healed crooked and tight, sliced through by fresh wounds still glistening and raw. This wasn't a recent skirmish. It was accumulated history of a lifetime spent at war on the streets. Bakugo's jaw clenched. He offered no commentary, just adjusted his grip and kept working, his movements becoming more meticulous. He spent far longer than necessary combing through the wet fur, methodically hunting down and plucking out every parasite he could find, one by one. Ruthless in his precision, the cat remained a statue of quiet endurance, as if it understood this brutal kindness was a necessary trial. It didn't hiss, didn't struggle, just sat there, made impossibly small by the water in his hands, and let him work. When he was finally satisfied, Bakugo shut off the water and wrapped the cat in a clean towel, bundling it on instinct. Only then did he glance down into the tub. The water swirling towards the drain was a dark, clouded brew, rust-colored streaks, old blood, grime, the silt off the streets, bled away with the last of the suds. Bakugo couldn't help but wince. Disgusting. He took his time towel-drying the soaked fur with brisk efficiency, working until the cat was no longer dripping, just faintly damp. He traded the towel out for a clean, still warm one, wrapping the cat up until it resembled a softly vibrating, semi-conscious burrito. Cradling the bundle with care he would deny under oath, Bakugo carried it into the living room and set it down on a thick rug near the space heater. He clicked it on, dialing the heat to its lowest, safest setting. The cat never fully curled. It simply melted, succumbing to the heat with a final weary sigh. By the time Bakugo's hands withdrew, it had already fallen into a deep, unguarded sleep, its purse fading into the quiet rhythm of breath. Bakugo lingered for a moment, a silent sentinel in the dim room, his shadow stretching across the floor to where the small, peaceful form lay. The apartment held its breath around him, the usual hum of tension absent, replaced by a stillness that felt almost loud. Finally, he turned away. He retreated to his bedroom and left the door cracked open behind him. Just enough. "What's his name?" the veterinarian asked. "Huh?" His name, she repeated patiently. "Doesn't he have one?" The cat sat on the stainless steel exam table, tail neatly curled around its paws, a single blue eye watching Bakugo with unsettling, unblinking attentiveness. Bakugo's mind flickered through the metal ledger of insults and creative obscenities he'd assigned the creature. The silence stretched, thin and brittle. "Blitz," he said at last, the word gruff and final. He crossed his arms immediately, a defensive fortress, his scowl locked into place as a clear universal warning against commentary. The veterinarian's smile was small, knowing, "Well, Blitz is looking much better. Keep up the good work." With a bag of specialized medications and diet food in hand, they left the sterile and quiet of the clinic for the noisy street. Over the following weeks, the cat, Blitz, underwent a quiet transformation. The angry, scabbed patches of skin smoothed over into healthy pink and then vanished beneath a coat that grew thicker, cleaner, and impossibly brighter. A vibrant electric orange. The frantic survivalist edge to its movements softened, replaced by a lively, confident grace. A new, unspoken routine cemented itself. Every morning, Blitz would slip out the door with Bakugo, peel off on some mysterious solo route through the neighborhood, and without fail, by the time Bakugo returned, mission-weary and scowling, Blitz would already be stationed on the porch. Tail held high in a flagpole of triumph, he'd offer a sharp, declarative as if greeting his returning comrade was the most natural and inevitable event in the world. Blitz, of course, couldn't tell anyone, but Bakugo made sure to show his affection only in the acceptable, deniable ways. He fed him premium kibble at precise intervals. He replaced the water bowl into a single piece of dust dared float into it. He administered ear drops with brutal clinical efficiency, and on evenings when the apartment was particularly quiet, he stopped shoving the warm, purring weight off his lap. "I thought you didn't get a cat," Kirishima dared to ask one afternoon, watching a very happy, very plump orange cat wind figure eights around Bakugo's ankles. Bakugo answered with a death glare sharp enough to peel and qualify as a Class A intimidation tactic. Kirishima wisely decided the mysteries of feline acquisition were best left unexplored and said nothing else. Over time, evidence accumulated like unspoken testimony. A lone, mouse-shaped toy appeared under the sofa. Then a plush cat bed materialized in a sunbeam, strictly for its solar efficiency, of course. Sturdy scratching posts followed, their neutral tones chosen coincidentally to not clash with the decor. Eventually, a discreet litter box manifested in the laundry nook, a tactical necessity for emergencies, obvious ones, like rain or situations beyond anyone's reasonable control. Blitz settled in, his presence threading itself into the fabric of the apartment until it was no longer a noteworthy event, just a quiet, permanent truth. One morning, as Bakugo prepared his own breakfast with lethal focus, he set 2 small, unseasoned pieces of salmon aside on a separate plate. Blitz loafed on the countertop, a watchful orange sphinx within arm's reach. His single blue eye tracked over the knife, the pan, Bakugo's hands, with the quiet, unwavering intensity of a tactical overseer. Bakugo never commented on any of it. He just existed in a world that now definitively contained a cat. Alright, so this was the wonderful fic called Bakugo Did Not Get a Cat, and he absolutely did not name it. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I sound weird. I had a concert. I was playing an instrument, except I was doing a lot of cheering and clapping. So there's that, and I also haven't had any water the time I was recording this, and Bakugo's and Kirishima's voices are kind of gravelly, so it hurt a little. I will do chapter 4 of A Mix of Discoveries tomorrow, because chapter 5 is in fact out. I just wanted to do a short little one-shot today. I hope you guys liked it. I know I did. Thank you so much to the author for giving me permission to podfic this. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. So remember to eat, drink water, take your meds, go to bed at a reasonable time, and goodbye.